Her request you'd like to share, I'm praying for.
He's flying into that meeting.
Continue to remember the refugee family in Houston. Bill can assist them. But I did that the people who helped them, I think, would like to come. They may show up next. So if week he has girls enrolled, I hope they would join, at least that they can meet several.
Okay, if nothing else,
Our Father, I thank you for this evening, for bringing us together. Thank you that you are our Creator, our Lord and Savior. Before we bring them to you, would you delight in have us asking you and making them known to you as part of keeping a close relationship as they have the discussion, as we lead the discussion on the issue this evening. Just give them wisdom and insight, and if we could take to heart and put it to practice. We pray now for the requests that we're given this evening. We think of the prison work that so many of our people are involved in. We think of this big event. We pray for the prisons to prepare themselves, and for the speakers and the singers and all those that will be involved, and those that will be doing other things. Just bless us that we get a time of fellowship, people into your kingdom. I think now of J. Martin, just bless him as he travels here, comes back to be with us, just give him safety, and bless him also as he continues in his prison work and have been working with. We get to know them, they get to know us. Just be a means of fellowshipping and a means of expressing the gospel of Jesus Christ and through love and friendship. Just be with us now this evening. Be with each one of us as we continue to sing your praise. Amen.
okay, you may be seated.
A panel discussion is not done by myself, so Brother Jalen and Brother Craig, proceed. I'm glad you brought your notebook.
Well, I didn't know what to
Looks
put
like-
down, but
yeah.
I got something here.
And you got some papers, so a panel discussion, as I understand, we have not, this has not been scripted. We have not done necessarily any, this is not an act here. This is an actual discussion about a subject that we hope. The seed of this discussion, the title was not put on the board because I think the Sunday evening committee did not quite know how to title. From someone in our church that voiced the question this way: what makes, if I remember correctly, what makes a word a bad word? We hope this evening, this is a very delicate subject to be treating in a church. Because when you talk about bad words, we don't want to. Words as we know it, I think I remember one evangelist that was here introduced his week of, much like a dump truck transfers goods from one place to the other. And he loads it up, the words, with meaning, and hopefully where it's dumped off, it will have the same meaning as what it was loaded with. And so we know that words are very significant in our language. We communicate with. An introductory scripture, well known, in Matthew 12, verses 33 through 37. What makes words important and the effect of words. Here we go. Matthew, and his fruit corrupt, for the tree is known by his fruit. O generation of vipers, how can ye, good man out of the good treasure of the heart bringeth forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. At the onset, I will say that I have had a struggle in my personal life and experience with words that were not helpful. Former teacher, a teacher here, in my life that came to me and expressed a concern about a certain word that I will possibly refer to later on in this evening's discussion, what that word was and how frequently I used it. But it was his concern that that was a part of my language that probably would be healthier if it wouldn't be. And I was very grateful for that input in my life. And that's how we should be. So I just wanted to say, I think if we're honest, a lot of us maybe struggle with that. No one's perfect, but. So, objectives this evening. I would like to name a couple. I'll open it then to you all to add what we'd like to accomplish here tonight. I think number one, we'd like to heighten the awareness that our words reflect values, either casual or purposeful, or others. Secondly, is that our words deeply affect others. That you'd like to add.
Give me the first one again.
The first one was to heighten our awareness that words reflect values. Just as they're writing some things down here, I just started a book of one of the youngest Holocaust survivors. And she details her that there is a heightened, she says this way, hate is on the rise, and it is very evident in people's speech. And that is a concern to her because she has been the brunt of that during the Holocaust, and that is a concern. And that makes perfect sense because the Bible has indicated that as time goes on, the love of many will grow cold, and that is the result, is that hate will be on the rise, and words will express some of those. Some questions that came to my mind that we would like to open for discussion this evening. Are some words simply always bad regardless when they're used? Another one is what affects whether a word is bad or not, if it's just a neutral word sometimes or a bad word another time. Are there other questions that we should add to the list or that you've come up with? Maybe we're going to have to include everyone in the panel discussion tonight.
So you want to...
And this doesn't have to be on these questions. We can open up anything. This is a panel discussion. It will kind of morph wherever we take it. But I do have some points that I want to address this evening as far as what I've thought about.
phrases that were said that we wanted to talk about?
Absolutely. If you want to bring those in at this time, phrases or words that you've heard in the past that are possibly questionable or wonder where they should be used, where they shouldn't be used, kind of expression. What makes a word or expression wrong? Let me give you an example. If I come out all at once and say, and I'm seeing the Twin Towers fall down, and I say, "Oh my God," is that wrong? And then we come to church and sing, "Oh my God." Do you see what I'm getting at? Does that make sense? The usage, is that wrong? Should we be careful about that? And what makes the difference?
Well, I can't, okay,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I didn't want to be offensive. I want to be very,
This might be something to add to your list there.
okay.
And it's possible we'll touch on this later, but can a word that was used that in past, a word that was innocent, can that, for from one generation to the next mean something different to the next generation. I know that's something I've faced.
Yes.
And it's something that I wanted to bring up, so it's something that's been on my mind.
Good point. Good point. I'm sure you probably have an illustration too.
I do.
Yeah. I'm with you.
There's an expression that's used, I don't say this one, but somebody brought this to my attention, the word holy. So they'll say this when they are, when they're surprised or amazed.
Okay.
They'll say, "Holy cow!" That the term "holy cow" is a play on the fact in some religions, most notably Hinduism, the cow is a sacred animal. So we say "holy cow." It's actually in India, the cow is holy. You're not allowed to kill a cow. I mean, I've never on the street, so it's become a holy cow. Anyway, that was one take on the meaning of holy, on holy cow, but maybe it also goes, this started in 1913. There was a man named Peter, but his nickname was, so that also is a possibility where that holy cow got started, because he was a very popular player. Later on, he became an holy cow, and he used that expression when he was announcing the radio. It would broadcast on the radio who got a hit, who got an out, and this Peter, for 50 years he said that. So that just became a part of, so that's where that comes from.
And the two words, neither of them are wrong you know, holy. Holy obviously is a scriptural term. Cow we know.
God's creation.
But I've been to India and I've seen exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Why appeal to something like that for an expression of amazement?
Right.
You know, what is behind that?
Well, yeah,
very similar.
Yeah, that's right. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
You know. Where that
Any comments over here on this kind of thing?
My question is, there's all these expressions that people use.
Yeah.
When something, like Kev said, that the Twin Towers fall.
It's an amazement.
What kind of expression should we give, or is good to give? You know, because this is what's going to be easy to say, to come out.
That's right.
That's the common thing to
It
say.
does influence others, and we are influenced. Correct.
So
That's very
I've heard someone, I think it was a pretty appropriate thing to say, when you see the biggest buildings in America falling, you know.
Praise the Lord, huh?
I was thinking maybe we shouldn't say it. I mean, this holy cow, I've been hearing this in my lifetime, but derogatory a little bit in that level. Maybe we should. We don't know the background, and they don't know the background. So maybe something to keep in mind. Maybe we shouldn't say that one.
It's something in the form of expression of amazement. So I have 3 categories of words here that I came up with, and there probably would be more, but the second category of words, I have terms of frustration or exasperation. You know, when something goes wrong, you turn to
stub your toe on the table.
That's right, yeah. And that Jesus said what's inside it bubbles out, it comes out. And should we be careful about, should that tell us demean or condemnation or insinuating that something or someone is less than ideal? And I'll give you some illustrations of that later, once we get into that. And we don't want to prolong this real long. We just, Jalen, you're bursting.
No,
something to say.
you said something. One of your objectives says to heighten the awareness that words reflect values, and I'm trying to get at narrow that down. What you were saying? Are you saying it was your first objective for this?
Yes.
Or are you saying that the words that I use are reflecting the values that I hold?
Right. Are rooted in a value system.
Right.
Do I care about Craig? Do you think that if I use the term that you refer to here in public, in society, what concept would they have that expect dissonance there? I think it's a cause for
Probably going to come out. In the Old Testament, there's a prophecy, and I just thought about it, and the people that walk past it are going to smite their chest or do something. And I don't remember what it was, but it's like they're going to react to it. And so I think, I guess I don't know if you're ready for it or not.
we're ready for anything. Yeah, we gotta keep moving here.
I did just a little research on just secular writers about swearing and the history of swearing. Swear words almost always are connected with divinity and holiness and good, but that are sacred. It can be, well, what I'm saying.
Okay, so the word would profane that
Okay.
that what God created.
Right. Well, no, what I'm saying is they have to do, just like you referred about the cow and the smoke.
Exactly.
Or things that God holds sacred in just regular discussion. There's that, like the Romans, the Greeks, and some of them said, and it seems like it starts from, in Deuteronomy, I think it's 6:13, where God gave in one. So it was wants to make a covenant or give a surety that I will do this, or if I'm dishonest, then I am looking for a expectation. It was said, when you swear, you need to swear by your God. And because that's the. So some secular writers are using that to justify swearing. Gave a, if I can find which one, but they said it's that, basically said, as humans, we need to have a way to give vent to our emotions. When something hits us, like you said, we're grasping for something. And two of them mentioned that it releases the pressure from our emotions. So, and they all mentioned that's where it comes from is, and so people go to oaths or swearing is kind of a variation of what would be considered a proper oath, like in the Old Testament. And it's just a shortened oath. They might say by such and such a God or something like that. People are looking to make their words more sure, make them stronger, to give it effect. So if that's a primary reason for swearing, then Jesus had good reason to say, let your yea be yea, and you're not going to make a difference on your tone. It's not going to make a difference to your toenail. One writer that it supposedly actually relieves pain, and I'm not sure about that. But he explained it that some people with processes emotions more, and so sometimes people with Alzheimer's, they might lose some of their regular speech ability, but their swearing stays intact because it's connected to their emotions, and so I found that. I don't know about that. It became in poor taste and considered uncivil to be swearing by the name of God, the name of Christ, and so forth. So people started changing things, and instead of the names of God or all kinds of other variations of it, and some of them that don't, right at first, don't even look like it, but they say that some of them pointed out that a lot of those swear words are actually derivatives of some holy and sacred word. And if you look it up, you'll come across some of those.
I got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Either overstanding or overstadish. What are you saying? I've been wondering about it for 40 years.
Does anyone know a direct translation?
Let me out there.
Any volunteers from the congregation?
Unverständlich.
Yeah. What does that mean? What are you saying?
It's a, no, it's Pennsylvania Dutch.
Incredible, unbelievable.
Okay.
Unbelievable. I think he got a sense of it there.
All right. I just wondered.
It's just a common term that, yeah.
Play Dutch,
But
it's
they'll
a,
say it in English too. They'll use, not when they speak in English, they'll use that term.
Yeah.
If you're a real Dutch speaker.
I just wondered. Just a question.
It just has so much more meaning in the Dutch than in English.
I would say that one, in a setting where nobody's Dutch, don't use it. Because, you know, I've wondered over the years, you know, I walked into the room and said, who is standing? You know, what do they see?
Well, what did they say?
Is my hair combed? Do you know what's going on? Anyway, just something to keep in mind.
This is just an aside, but there was some boys that were with some boys from the community.
Yeah.
This was a long time ago, and the boys from the community said, "So how do you say a bad word in Pen-" And what that is Good Samaritan. But it wasn't.
So this,
But
this, yeah.
go ahead. No.
Just when Craig mentioned that using unverständlich, and you have other speakers around that don't understand that, you know, maybe we shouldn't use that. It reminded me of the time our family was traveling home from Kenya, and to Merle at that time, and we hit some turbulence, and it flew up and landed in his lap, and Merle just said, "Pole sana," you know,
Okay.
in Swahili, meaning "I'm sorry," and she got, you know, she went to full length to make sure he was cleaned up, and so he was cussing her out in another language. And so, yeah, you know, that's something to be aware of, is if we are in a group of different, don't use a different language, even if it's not a bad word, you might take it wrong.
Invariably, miscommunications or misunderstandings will happen, but if we can minimize that, it would certainly be helpful. Back the offensive terms that are used by what would be considered really rough characters in society that use terms, I find it ironic that many of those terms are rooted in something sacred, such as a reference to hell or I actually didn't write down, but yeah, or, you know, appealing to God, which I find that Jesus did address that, is just simply be simple in saying. And it probably comes out, it evolved or morphed out of that idea of appealing to a deity for the strength of the word or the expression we want to give it. Somehow it catches your attention in a graphic way. Now, I think, Brother Craig, you, over a period of time, people are maybe a little careful or worried about how they use a term, and so they don't use the offensive term, but use something similar to that. That term, or the word for the description, the word for that describes that, is a euphemism. If I think that's correct. And the technical description.
so I can get the message out without saying the exact word.
That's we need to be careful about that kind of thing too, in our usage. And I think we have illustration. I think we know what we're talking about without actually going into that.
I said a word. I said, what the heck? So made effort to come to my house. So he, you know, walked in the house and said, I just came over because I was concerned about that word you used. I said, which one? What the heck? Oh. So anyway, I didn't really think anything, I didn't think it was wrong, but I did look it up. I told him I won't use it again, but surprise, frustration or dismay, like you would say, what the heck's the matter? And so so slang is like a little bit lower level, you know, sort of the bottom shelf. And I said, I won't, you know, I'll be careful not to say it. But you know, the next time I preached there, I said, what the heck? I caught myself, but I almost said it again. But it becomes part of your vocabulary. It's easy, it's hard to get rid of that. But now, you know, I haven't said it. I try not to say that anymore, but because it sort of is that low-lying fruit at the bottom that offended somebody. So, you know, I'll try not to use it anymore. But there are those types of words that are just, you know, maybe they are right, but then again, somebody would be offended by it. But there is one word that sucks. That sucks. I've heard that already. I say, wow, did he say that? No. That is a derogatory word. That's like a four-letter word. I think it is a four-letter word. But that's in that same category that has a meaning, sort of a bad meaning. So that was something, just be careful not to say that word. But it is sometimes amongst the youth, they say it, and I think some of my children have said it, and they must have picked it up from others. So I talked to them about not using that word. And this is some years ago, but anyway, just something I wanted to share with the church here about that.
I'm glad I don't hear that as frequently as I used to.
Yeah,
I'm happy
right.
I'm 100% with you on that. I would put that, I did have a fourth column here that I don't have words under,
Yeah.
and that is words of vulgar, slang,
Yeah.
or curse words. Those, I believe, would be always wrong. My brother has
Can I,
an addition.
When you said that word heck, that's a euphemism for hell.
I would agree.
Yeah.
That,
That's what it is. In other
Okay.
words, it's a lighter, nicer
Right,
form of the
Yeah.
bad word that we
right. It's unlovely.
Or another one is, oh my word, instead of oh my God.
That's
It's
right.
a euphemism of
Okay.
oh my God. And it just makes
Jeremy, I think that was an excellent question to bring, is what should we express? Or how of Pennsylvania Dutch-speaking people, they might think you're talking about the piece of branch that's in the way or something, that's a heck, you know, you get the heck out of the way. Just take it over to the hecka pile, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so.
I feel better. Thank you.
You might be okay on that.
I can still use it then, some places, huh?
Around Pennsylvania Dutch.
All right.
Well, I guess I would just say it's, to me, it's pointless to try to keep up with all the different words and so forth, and look more at what's in my heart and why is it trying to come out. And I'm just going to give my opinion. This is no writer that told me this, but I guess it's been my observation that, and I know I could look at maybe some other people that they know most of the nouns of the English language and most of the verbs, but they only know about 2 or 3 adjectives, and you know, and you know, all the speech, and none of them are good. And I guess I feel my observation is that either they have a weak vocabulary, man, that when Peter was trying to see what was going to happen to Jesus, but he didn't want to get too close, he got into a crowd of people where they were trying to decide what to do with him. And someone came and said, you know, so he went out on the porch, and the maid saw him and says, pretty sure you were there with Jesus of Nazareth. Says, again he denied with an oath. So there he appealed to God. Said, no. Said, that wasn't me that you saw. And then later another person says, surely thou art one of them. Said, you talk like one of those men that came there. Says, then began he to curse and to swear, saying, I know not the man. And that's when the cock crew. I think at this time, Peter suffered from weak character. And so what you said about values, I said, to me, it's less about the actual words that actually come out as to why am I frustrated? Why do I want to portray this? Why do I feel it necessary to add extra weight to what I'm saying? And then I come back to what Jesus said, just let your words be yea, and that should suffice. Go ahead.
Conclude that tone of voice does sometimes carry meaning or convey that feeling that's within us. And I thought immediately of the verse in 1 Corinthians 13:5, where it says, love is not easily provoked. And that convicted me. It's like, in a situation of provocation, what comes out? Am I easily provoked? So,
There's a phrase that they don't use, I haven't heard it around here, but I've heard it in Southern Virginia and in some of the southern states. It's called cotton picking. This is a funny one. Cotton picking. And so I looked that up. It says it means worthless, damned, or hateful. And people will say it in anger when they get frustrated. Cotton picking. You know, what does this mean? You know, I found out. But it says cotton picking is usually used as it's a place of the word damn. So
yeah.
that's just something to keep in mind. I don't think it's going to be coming to Texas anytime soon, but hopefully not. But we are in the South. It might spread, but the big wind. So we don't want to hear that one here. Anyway, it's interesting. I don't know if there's anybody here. Maybe Peter, I don't know. I don't know if Peter would heard this one. The cat's meow. Anybody heard that before?
I would not have associated with a swear word, though.
No.
No, I just wondered.
Maybe someone is, but that's,
I just thrown it out.
I was thinking there's a story behind it, but
It was sort of something used maybe just prior to my generation. There's words like a groovy, the cat's meow, that's way out, that freaks me out. Those are just, I just threw those in as interest. I don't hear anybody saying that, but it just, each generation has words they use, and it's good. I like that, what's in the heart will come out, and so, but maybe it's good that we know some of the history of this stuff so we don't pick it up.
That often gives there is usually a trail or a story behind some, and what was interesting, I was talking with Brother Tim when he was in Iraq. He said the young people there that were involved, and it was to refer to something that's like really good, or like it, slap.
What's it?
Okay, slap.
Slap.
Yeah, it's like, where does that start? And obviously with social media these days, things like that can go far and wide. But back to your, we need to draw this to a close. But to your question, as far as can a word evolve over time and change meaning to where we no longer use a word as commonly as it used to because the definition has sort of changed? What do you have in mind there?
Okay, so and I would get together every day after school, whatever. And this happened sometime in the course of our interactions. He heard someone from our family use a word, and I think it was maybe referring to like a cat. I don't want to say it because it's
fine.
and he looked at me, he said, for me, I was like, that's
What's the word?
something, well,
He refrains from saying.
I don't want to say it
respect
because
that, yeah.
it's vulgar. But it's something that I think I've heard like older people use it, like people that may have grown up in, because it's a very vulgar term. But I think if you go back 50 years ago, it may have not been. And then I thought it was interesting as I was asked to be on this discussion. I was reading through a Reader's Digest here a few weeks ago, and I came across an article where it had words that have evolved and changed their meaning. And I just have one here, I thought it was interesting, and I took a picture of it. The word idiot. This is what they say there. What's the opposite of a candidate? An idiot, or idiotus in Greek, coming from the word idiotus, meaning private. An idiot was anyone which is how it is used today. And then it asks, what did the ancient Greeks call a foolish person? Morose, which is the basis for the modern moron. Can come to mean something with very strong language. And I don't know how we can shield against that, because in the case where I was talking about where Toby heard that word, it was said in innocence.
It was, so an example is that you would have used let's like, this is a private person and this is a public
Right.
person.
Yeah, he's not a
Right,
politician.
Right, and
He's just
here's
a
Toby,
civilian, basically.
right, and here's Toby hearing that, thinking that you just called a person a derogatory term,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But I guess my thinking is, how can we shield ourselves
Prevent that, right.
from
Well,
do we keep ourselves
yeah,
more informed?
yeah. Well, I guess for myself is, I don't think it's necessary. I try to avoid picking up or adopting the latest fad and vocabulary. But on the other hand, if there's something that I feel has a legitimate meaning and other people don't see it that way, I don't feel I just need to use it and try to convince them that it's okay, because they're going to perceive it. I mean, if I load the truck with gold and send it, and they look at it and it's cold to them, it's not going to do any good. So I need to kind of respect how people see and view that word. Now, that doesn't mean that their standards of what is an acceptable word, that doesn't mean that I have to adopt it, because there's lots of speech that I don't want to adopt. But in cases like that, I think it's better for me to just respect that and not insist, well, this is what the word means, and I'm perfectly okay in saying it. And this is maybe not really the point of our discussion this evening, but that's really how I feel a lot of words get corrupted, is somebody wants to say something negative or bad about somebody, and they want to do it in a safe way, and so they grab a word that is safe to say and apply it to that.
So
I
don't want to get
yeah.
off the trail here, but what about, like, okay, so the word referring to an African American,
Right.
it's perfectly fine for someone
Yeah.
of that color to use that word. It's not offensive
Yeah.
until
Well,
someone else
right,
uses it.
yeah.
You know.
well, yeah.
So is that person hearing the word, or is it who is
Yeah.
saying? You know.
Well, I think that, in my mind, we're getting into political things there that, people are doing it, and I don't think it's necessary for me to use it, but
Absolutely.
but it's not. I don't think the word in itself is such a bad word as what some people make it out to be.
I had one more, are you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
I had one more story. This is just a matter of interest. Have you ever heard that expression, all 9 yards? We heard that, I heard that for all my life, but I never really understood what it meant. All 9 yards. He got it all 9 yards done, or whatever it was. But that actually was 9 yards. So during World War II, there was an airplane, and on the airplane there was a machine gun. And they would use this machine gun to shoot other machine gun, and it had these bullets that were like in a magazine. And the magazine held 9 yards. So when that plane took off, it had 9 yards of machine gun bullets. And so it would go out there and shoot these other planes or whatever, And, eventually it would use up all 9 yards, and then it would come back because there's no more bullets. So that then became a saying. When you do something and you did it really good, you used all 9 yards. Anyway, that's all I had.
Okay. We do need to draw this to a close. I wonder how many of you would have liked to have been up here to give your thoughts. I would have loved to hear them. Back to just a little bit to touch on words of condemnation. Just some illustrations we're talking about. Anytime you refer to another person in a derogatory way or term, it could be wetback, it could be fag. Back when we were young, it was dipstick. You were a dipstick, or an airhead, or a blonde, or maybe an Aggie. We have some humor, and context can make some difference there, but let's be careful. Or Polak, referring to the Polak jokes, kind of as referring to a simplistic type person. Let's be careful of those kind of connotations. When I grew up, you didn't even have to say a word, but in Belize, if you sucked your teeth like that, we were not allowed to do that growing up because it was an expression of disgust, and Dad wouldn't tolerate it. So it's the motivations that come out, or even the term, oh, mix, we would say in disgust, oh, mix, That was in Creole. But each culture has its context, and we just need to be sensitive to that. The whole idea here is to arouse or raise our bar, maybe, in being aware of what comes out of our mouth and how it might affect those around us. Now, I will be true to my promise that I will let you know what the word was that I had a problem with growing up, and it was the term "Gom Louie." Every time I would express something, "Gom Louie,"
What does that mean?
What does it mean? I don't know. It came around and I got hooked, and wow, that was a neat phrase. And someone said, "You're saying that all the time." For our time, but I won't bore you with that. One other little thing, even billboards sometimes use euphemisms for getting the message across. How many of you have gone the loop in Waco some time back and seen the roofing billboard that says, "Oh, hail yes, we do all kinds of roof repairs"? That's playing on words a little bit, yeah. Just one other thing here in closing. Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. I should have written down the whole verse, or I should have read the whole verse. I would ask the question, whose tongue? I'd like an audible answer. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Whose tongue?
My tongue.
That's right. Could we say every tongue? Death and life are in the power, yeah. Whose tongue? Every tongue. Whose death and life? Did you say ours? I like that. You're reading exactly what I'm thinking. I used to think that means that the words that come out of my mouth can kill or give life. And that is true. It can sustain, it can breathe life into someone, or it can cut them down. But what we do to others will come back to us. So we are cutting ourselves down if we use words that cut others down. What we sow is what we will reap. Are we finished? Did you get everything off your heart that you wanted to talk about? I think I covered pretty much everything. One more objective that we want to cover tonight is that if you give a suggestion to the Sunday evening committee, be prepared to be involved. After all, Joseph gave a suggestion to Pharaoh, and they said, "Who else is more qualified to do this than you?" Thank you for your attention.
promise, there's a sign-up sheet in the back for some dessert to bring to the Father and Son Island. It'd be nice to have that filled tonight, so I don't have to worry about it.
Last Wednesday evening, we had proposed to release Caitlin Miller's membership, church membership, without blessing, and we have not received any feedback from you that would hinder that. So those of you that are members of our church here, if you can show your support of that proposal by standing to your feet, please. Thank you.